we're back again. I12 GIA, real talk with real people, raw and unfiltered. Just got me and Rennie tonight. Nomad is out on an island someplace surrounded by water. He's still nomading. So hopefully we're going to try it back again to get him back next week. Got kind of an interesting topic tonight. It's going to be, is Islam compatible with modern Western civilization? Now, it's not going to be a discussion about what religion is best or any of that nonsense. I'm certainly no theologian, and some pretty horrible things have been done in the name of all religion. But what I'd like to discuss, though, is whether or not it's actually compatible with what's going on now. I mean, Christianity has evolved over the years. You know, we're no longer doing the Spanish Inquisition and some of that stuff. So I want to have a talk about whether or not Islam is doing the same thing, kind of where they are. Mr. Bischoff, for you guys that watched it, it's going to be a really good segue into what we're doing tonight. So let's just jump right on into it. Got some pretty good videos pulled up for you that will explain all of this stuff, and we'll just get into it and have a conversation. I'm hoping some folks call tonight because I really want to talk about this. We want to hear from you callers, 508-974-4231, and you can talk to Rennie and I about this stuff and whatever else you want to. Okay, partner. Well, what do you think?
Question on whether Islam is compatible with Western civilization. It's having been there and done that, it's complex and multifaceted. I mean, it's nothing like what sun up fucking first prayer alarm of the day goes off, you're sound asleep, and then all of a sudden the shouting and screaming starts, wakes you up out of bed, scares the shit out of you.
Right.
It's often shaped by differing interpretations of both Islam and Western values. Several key factors need to be considered. I remember like when the Shah of Iran was in charge of Iran, the Iranian women didn't have to wear shit over their heads. I mean, Iranian women are beautiful, you know. They wore bathing suits and skirts and everything else. So I suppose to an extent, to a degree, you could say Islam is compatible with Western civilization, but it all depends on who's running the tribe.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, we have the issue between moderate Islam versus radical Islam.
Yes.
Yeah, you brought Iran up, so let's. We at a really good video that actually documents what Iran was like.
Oh, let's take a look at it.
And prior to the Ayatollah. So yeah, let's look at that and see what's going on. That kind of helps put things in perspective for us. Well, okay, first we're going to do Afghanistan from 1960 to 1970. Same issue, although a little bit different sects. Afghanistan's kind of weird about this. So that gets going, we'll figure it out there.
I'm sorry, gentlemen. Is this a wrong one? What did you want?
Yeah, let's do Iran first.
Okay, all right.
But
no worries.
Political and social factors. Political and social dynamics.
Once a little piece
Is
of
this
Okay.
it? Life in
Yes,
Iran.
life in Iran before.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Okay. Okay. We're all set. Say when.
Okay, yeah, go right ahead. Let's run it. All right, this is going to be about 15 minutes.
of the West inside the Middle East, Iran has suffered some of the most significant changes for a country in recent history. This is Iran, before and after the Islamic Revolution. Culture. Before the Islamic Revolution, Iran was a very different world. The country underwent an aggressive modernization program called the White Revolution, which led to rapid westernization. In this period, citizens could enjoy some degree of cultural freedom, mainly because of Western influence. Women and men mixed freely. There was a cosmopolitan lifestyle in the main cities. The world was in awe of Iran's rapid development. However, not everyone was satisfied with the White Revolution. It was imposed. Any group that disagreed with the Shah, which means king in Persian, could be oppressed, tortured, and even killed by the Savak secret police. General unhappiness was growing with the regime's luxuries, corruption, and jet-set lifestyle. There were also rising concerns about Western powers' influence on Iran's government, mainly the US and the UK. All this led to social anti-government demonstrations that, when met with brutal repression, quickly escalated into the Islamic Revolution. Right after the revolution, and successfully overthrowing the monarchy, the country adopted an anti-Western mindset. For the past 40 years, hardline political and religious conservatives have grown paranoid of Western influence and, as a result, have cracked down on people they perceive to be enemies of the state. The Sharia is the law that dictates the code of conduct under a conservative Islamic ideology. Even the moral police patrol the streets enforcing Islamic codes of dress and behavior. In many ways, freedom of expression has hardly improved. In fact, the overall feeling is that class character in Iranian society has remained unchanged, with one ruling class replaced by another. Nowadays, instead of the Shah's ruling class, the sons of the revolution's leaders and the business class that works within the regime's rules flaunt their wealth by driving luxury sports cars around Tehran and posting on social media about their jet-set lifestyle. In contrast, the poor and the middle class still struggle to survive. Nevertheless, younger generations constantly aim for more freedom, mainly thanks to the internet. And many experts, including less conservative clerics, expect drastic social changes in the next 10 years. Education. Before the revolution, when the Shah was in power, schools in Iran began to modernize their ways of teaching, moving away from the religious focus. The government chose secular education in which students would learn skills applicable to jobs in science, teaching, and management. Despite the Shah's efforts to offer a mandatory westernized education, many families would not send their children to these modern public schools, which were inspired by the French system. This new education system was a mix between modernization and nationalism, as it glorified elements from the pre-Islamic Persian culture. During this era, many institutes of higher education were established, while the Shah encouraged women to attend higher education. There was a division among intellectuals, and they ultimately decided that they would let women attend only to learn all things related to the household. According to the World Bank and the Statistical Center of Iran, in the late 1970s, before the revolution, there was a 36.5% literacy rate with a 23.4% gender gap. More than 60% of women were illiterate, and the female enrollment rate in tertiary education was only 4%. Since the Islamic Revolution, the government brought religion back to all schools, removing the secular aspect that the Shah imposed, and it was immediately involved in three major efforts: purging courses and textbooks believed to slander Islam, removing teachers to ensure that only those who were not secular remained at the schools, regulating the behavior and dress of students. This resulted in boys and girls being separated in different institutions, girls being forced to wear hijabs, and most of the westernized education being scrapped out of the curriculum. Attendance in schools grew considerably, and the government redirected the Shah's previous efforts to educate rural areas, now under a completely different ideology. As a result, in the past 40 years, education and literacy rates have improved dramatically. By 2016, there was an 86% literacy rate. Gender gap was reduced to 9%. Less than 15% of women were illiterate, and the female enrollment rate in tertiary education was over 66%. Nowadays, more than 60% of university students are female, and the urban-rural gap in literacy went from 35% before the revolution to only 12%. Even though the improvement for women has been more significant than for men, women's education is far from being an easy road. The policies toward the education of women have experienced many changes since the Islamic Revolution. For example, right after it happened, in the subsequent Islamic Cultural Revolution, which consisted of the complete opposite of the White Revolution, women were barred from most study fields and were only allowed to study 91 out of 169 available majors. Still, after Iran's war with Iraq in the late 1980s, educated women were needed to rebuild the country, and all restrictions were lifted. And finally, since 2005, women's access to academic majors has been limited once again, and the government basically allows each university to impose its own restrictions based on gender. This topic inevitably leads us to the most controversial aspect of the Islamic Revolution: women's rights. Historically, in Iran, women's rights have been severely restricted compared to those in most developed nations. They change according to the form of government ruling the country, and mandates for women's rights have affected a broad range of issues, from dress codes to voting rights. For many centuries, women were isolated. They weren't engaged in politics, and their economic contribution was limited to household work. Those who worked in textiles during this period earned an average of 1/3 of what men did, and it was still possible for rural girls to be sold by the head heads of their families. These conditions changed during the Pahlavi dynasty that ruled the country from 1925 till the Islamic Revolution in 1979. The Shahs introduced many reforms concerning women's rights in this period. One example of an early reform, the Kashf-i-Hijab, or the forced unveiling of women, introduced in 1936. As the name suggests, it involved the police pulling the hijab away, even from religious women. What's more, inspired by the westernization that was taking place in Turkey at that time, the Shah increased women's participation in the economy and society. As literacy levels improved, women began to acquire high official positions, such as ministers and judges, while others emerged as artists, scientists, and athletes. In 1963, the Shah granted women voting rights. In 1967, the Iranian family law was reformed, improving the position of women in Iranian society. It allowed a wife to initiate divorce and required the first wife's permission for a husband to take a second wife. It also raised the minimum age at which a female could marry from 13 to 15 in 1967 and 18 in 1975. All these efforts were established through the Shah's wishes for Iran to become a more modern, European-style country. However, after the Islamic Revolution, these freedoms were retracted, even when women were crucial to its success. Since 1979, women's rights have been restricted through several laws, such as the introduction of mandatory hijab and a public dress code. By 2022, only 5.59% of members of the parliament are women. Today, they're allowed to drive, hold public office, attend university, and to vote. But when in public, all hair and skin except the face and hands must be covered, and not wearing a hijab in public can be punished by law. According to the Sharia law, women inherit half of what a man would, and compensation for the death of a woman is half as well. Also, most areas of the country are segregated by sex, meaning that males are prohibited of viewing females, and age of consent laws do not exist, as all sexual activity outside marriage is illegal. Women are also banned from dancing with anyone different from their family, and even to sing in public. Most of the rights provided under the White Revolution have been taken away, including the family protection laws, banning contraception, and lowering the minimum marriage age to 13, and even 9 in some cases. Iran ranks 125 out of 170 countries in the Women, Peace, and Security Index. In 2020, it held the world record in domestic violence against women. And in 2019, a state-run newspaper revealed that an average 375 to 450 honor killings are recorded in Iran each year. The situation is tense, mainly because the Islamic system, being widely patriarchal, has proven unable to protect women. In September 2022, a new wave of women-led anti-government protests erupted in the country after the killing of Mahsa Amini, who was beaten up by the police for not wearing her hijab correctly and died 3 days later because of her injuries. By the time of making this video, many experts suggest that this may mark the birth of a new and long-awaited revolution. Economy. The economy was one of the main factors that ignited the Islamic Revolution. Unequal distribution of oil wealth in the 1970s harmed the Iranian middle class and rural poor while benefiting the elite. In addition, the White Revolution mainly focused on the cities, worsening the gap between rural and urban areas. In the 1970s, the poverty rate was around 25%, and Iran's nominal GDP in 1979 was around $90.32 billion. In this decade, over 90% of Iran's GDP depended on oil and gas. And given that Iran's top trading partners were Japan, the United States, Germany, France, and the UK, Iran's currency was strong. As an example, in March 1978, $1 US was equal to 71.46 rials. On the other hand, after the revolution, Iran has indeed experienced progress. The shift from Shah's pro-urban, elite-centered policies to a pro-rural and populist approach included expanding infrastructure and essential services, such as electricity and clean water, to the countryside. As a result, the poverty rate dropped less than 10% in 2014, and by 2021, Iran's nominal GDP was over $231 billion. Iran's economy has become more diversified as well. According to the central bank, in 2022, the country's GDP is composed of 50% services, 32% of industry and mining, 13% of agriculture, and only 5% of oil. However, despite its small size, Oil remains a critical source of foreign exchange and government revenue. The anti-Western mindset can be evidenced in the impact on Iran's top commercial allies. In 2019, its top trading partners were China, the United Arab Emirates, India, Turkey, and Brazil. Even though the economy has managed to grow, Iran's currency has plummeted since the revolution. In June 2022, for example, $1 was equal to 42,456 Iranian rials. Of course, we can't ignore the US sanctions. However, according to Tehran's Alame Tabatabai University economists, only 15% of Iran's economic problems can be attributed to them. Experts suggest that state domination of the commanding areas of the economy, such as the oil and gas sectors, large industries, and the banking system, discourages private investment, affecting the country's performance. Even though the gap between urban and rural areas has closed significantly, there's a strong public perception of high income inequality that, along with the country's incapacity to absorb the hundreds of thousands of university graduates, has produced a middle-class poor social class. Moreover, according to the 2016 census for men and women between 25 and 29, unemployment rates are at 34.6% and 45.7% respectively. High unemployment rates for educated youth suggest deeper problems with the Islamic Republic's economic growth model. Politics. From a political point of view, Iran can be considered one of the most bizarre countries in the world. Today, the Islamic Republic's political system is thought of as a religious tyranny or malocracy. Iran was an absolute monarchy with a centuries-long history before 1906. Then, from 1906 to 1979, it became a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system under the 1906 Persian Constitution, the first in Iran's history. The Shah was the head of the state, while the Prime Minister was the head of the government. In 1953, amid a power struggle between Mohammad Reza Shah and Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, the CIA and MI6 orchestrated a coup against Mossadegh's government, reinstating the Shah, who ruled tightly with the support of the US and the UK. After the Islamic Revolution, the people of Iran adopted a new constitution that established the Islamic Republic of Iran and officially ended the monarchy. In this new political system, Iran adopted a parliament and modern political institutions like the presidency and a constitution, just like any other democratic republic. Still, on the other hand, it also established a supreme leader, an omnipotent figure who controls everything in the country: the economy, the armed forces, environment, foreign policy, education, national planning, intelligence, defense, and even the multi-billion-dollar government account. The supreme leader is appointed by the Assembly of Experts, which consists of 80 to 90 members, elected by popular vote, who review the supreme leader's performance to decide whether to extend or cancel his term. Though the funny thing is, it has been deemed illegal to supervise the activities of the Supreme Leader. Then comes the Guardian Council, composed of 12 members, 6 experts on Islamist theology, chosen by the Supreme Leader, and 6 experts on constitutional law, who must approve the laws consented by the Parliament, monitor elections, and review candidates for elected offices, including the President. Unlike other countries, the President isn't the leading power figure. In fact, even if he wins the elections, he still needs to gain the Supreme Leader's approval before being sworn in. This political system may explain why Iran scored lower than Saudi Arabia in the 2021 Democracy Index. That's everything for today. We'll see you in the next video.
Okay.
And don't
Great.
forget to stay curious.
Okay, so that was a pretty good explanation of a lot of stuff that's going on right now. And Iran is only a small microcosm of everything of the way the Middle East works, or that part of the world. One thing that video didn't mention is that Iran is the #1 sponsor of state terrorism. Iran is developing nuclear weapons. Iran's #1 enemy is Israel. They left that part of it out. So I think, what do you think, Ray? Does that answer our question about whether or not Islam is compatible with Western
Well,
civilization?
don't forget, Iran are the Ottomans, and it goes to the point I was trying to make before the video started running. Political and social dynamics, including immigration policies, integration efforts, and geopolitical landscape play significant roles in shaping perceptions of compatibility, which is what we're talking about. And Acts of terrorism by extremist groups have also fueled negative perceptions, stereotypes, complicating the discourse. Back to what I was saying earlier, before the Ayatollahs came to power, I'd say Iran was very, even though they were Muslim, they're very compatible with Western civilization.
They are or not or aren't.
They were.
They were compatible prior to with the Shah, prior to.
I think, though, you're starting to see the pendulum swing back.
Right. Yeah, very well could be. Well, they tried a couple of Iranian revolutions. The students, as mentioned in the video, they have 47,000 students or whatever wandering around with no jobs.
Yeah.
Middle class that can't afford it. So we've had, as the United States of America has had opportunities to help support those revolutions, and we failed miserably, as usual. I think on our topic of compatibility, I think one of the
what do you think the areas of contention are
between Western civilization and Islam?
Yeah.
Well, probably the
I'm going to
biggest,
throw one out there. How about gender equality?
well, gender equality is a big one, but under the umbrella of here in the United States was founded by folks that left England to escape religious persecution, right?
Let me give you another one. How about freedom of speech?
Well, yeah, exactly. And they don't have any of those things. We are not, our government here, and for the majority of Western democracies, is not based upon the rules of religion. We have the 10 Commandments; those are universal, right?
Yeah.
But it's freedom of religion, of any religion. It's not freedom from religion; it's freedom of religion. The big difference here is that Islam affects every aspect of life. I had a pretty good definition of that.
Do you think the tensions are related to the culture and the different religious groups versus the West?
Well, yeah, definitely, because it's a tribal society. So you have Sunnis, you have Shia, you have an assortment of various things in between, and everything is based on there's 6 pillars of Islam, and the second most important deed that involves it's the most important part of an Islamic superstate. It involves developing an Islamic superstate that controls all aspects of life for every person on earth. It's kind of one of the premises there. That's not what we do with democracy.
Well, that's Islam's goals to.
Well, yeah, exactly.
To dominate the world.
Right. So the difference then is that there the religion runs the government, and here, the government has an aspect of religious connotations based on Judeo-Christian religion, right?
Well, as long as we're talking religion, let's not forget Jesus Christ was the supreme being.
Well, yeah.
Okay, the Prophet Muhammad was a human being.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and among other things, but that's a whole different topic for discussion.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we covered Iran and the differences there. I think we'll move on into Afghanistan next because they have a whole different set of problems. And that is a nation. I feel so bad for those folks. They've been at war for the last several thousand years. It seems like somebody's always trying to invade them, and it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Hey, you fucking guys gave up a perfectly good air base in Bagram, so.
Well, no shit.
Be careful where you go.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. So let's go ahead and run the video on Afghanistan, what that was like before and to the.
At least we're still holding on to the Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Yeah, exactly. So what it was before to the complete clusterfuck that it is now. All right. All of that is when the Russians were still there. Ham air. I see a lot of happy folks, men and women getting together, learning together. It's not like that anymore.
Mr. B, you're entirely welcome. Thank you. Hey, Chad,
Yeah,
maybe we ought to find some prayer music so they can really experience life.
yeah, definitely.
When you sit up in bed and your hair's standing up straight.
Yeah, 6 times a day. Such a beautiful place, but man, not anymore. That's the airport. And then the Russians invaded.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the comment.
Hello, my name is Bill, your public relations officer at FFN Media Network. We believe that every story deserves to be heard, every voice deserves to be amplified, and every idea deserves to shine. As a small media company, we are committed to creating a platform where content creators, visionaries, and changemakers can thrive. Our mission is simple: empower, elevate, and engage. We are not just another media outlet. We are a community-driven hub that celebrates diversity, innovation, and authenticity. Whether it is through captivating articles, thought-provoking videos, or inspiring podcasts, we are here to make a difference. What sets us apart? At FFN Media Network, we embrace hard work. Our team of talented creators come from all social classes, ensuring that our content reflects a rich tapestry of experiences, cultures, and viewpoints. 1. Impactful stories. We do not just report the news, we tell stories that matter. From investigating the story to heartwarming features, our content sparks conversations, challenges norms, and inspires action. 2. Innovative formats, text, audio, video, we do it all. Our multimedia approach allows us to reach audiences on 15 different platforms. Whether you are a listener or a viewer, there is something for everyone at FFN Network. 3. Community engagement. We are not just content creators, we are community builders. Through events and collaborations, we foster connections and empower our audience to be part of the conversation. Join the FFN team. Are you ready to be part of something bigger? Join FFN Media Network and be part of a community that celebrates creativity, authenticity, and positive impact. Let us amplify your voice and share your story with the world. Get to know our founder, Blaise St. Pierre, the new guy in the media industry. So, if you think you got what it takes to join the FFN Network family, email us at ffnnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you. FFN Network.
Okay, we're back. I think this is going to be Afghanistan from 1960 to 1970. These are statues that Bamiyan that were blown up by the Taliban when they took over because
Yeah.
radical Islam will not tolerate any kind of idolatry or any of that nonsense. I've actually seen the before and after of these, and it's not a pretty sight. So Afghanistan is a whole different place now. We've left them to their own devices. Now women and girls are once again being raped, murdered, brutalized. They're wearing the blue full hijabs and burqas and all that stuff now. And they're right back where they started from before the Russians, or after the Russians, actually. So anyway, that's just a general mess. Is the current state of Islam in Afghanistan compatible with Western civilization? No, it's not even compatible with humanity, much less Western civilization. When the Taliban was in power, they would take their victims to the soccer fields or the soccer stadium in downtown Kabul. And that's where they would hold the weekly executions. I've also been in that stadium, and most Afghans won't go there anymore because of the ghosts of the murdered victims. And they say that at night you can see the blood seeping up out of the sand. And sadly, that's pretty much true. I don't know what to do about those folks. There's just, that's another topic for another different show, and we'll get into that some other time. So let's, I don't know. We're moving through time here as we go along. Now we're going to start, I think, getting into what's going on with Islam now as they move out to into the rest of the world. We see all the protests and things going on, which Israel now has been the catalyst for, which I think that's probably one of the reasons for all of that stuff. So I think we have a really good video from Dave Atherton who's up next if we want to run that one and see what his opinions are on this subject. And then we can kind of continue on. While we're doing that, if anybody's looking for, here, we'll just run this. This is what's happening in the UK right now. And it explains how quickly things can change for a country.
Good morning. I just want to say that you were talking about Islamophobia earlier on, and I was sort of thinking to myself, how I think it might be a natural state of mind, because if you think that now in our country, I mean, I'm from London, I'm 47, I grew up in SE21, and when I was a kid, people were beaming messages on our Houses of Parliament. We didn't have anti-Jewish and anti-British marches in London. We hadn't imported FGM, honour killing, sham marriage, suicide bombing, the full veil, grooming gangs, all from the Islamic third world. And I think for the past 20 or 30 years, we've been telling our government that we didn't want illegal immigration at all, and we wanted legal immigration cut down to extremely low numbers, because we know on the ground that this is what it leads to. Now the MPs' lives are in danger and they're being harassed, they're kind of catching up with the public. We've seen the degradation. When I was a kid in London in the early 80s, if someone got stabbed or shot, my whole family gathered around the TV. Oh my God, someone got stabbed in Camberwell. It was a shock. Yeah. Now it happens 3 times a day and we don't pay any attention. So we've seen the degradation. We've seen third world immigration ruin the country. If we're looking at crime, for argument's sake, right? Homogenous countries, if you look at the Eurostat figures, homogenous countries have the least amount of crime. So Slovenia, Slovakia, Hungary. I think Poland's got the least amount of crime with the least amount of immigration. You can take examples like Japan. Homogenous countries tend to be more unified, tend to have less crime. I think most people in this country are living in a country they didn't want or ask for.
And do you think, where has that come from? Do you think that it's come from... because I've had arguments about this with friends who said, well, actually, you have to blame partly the state for that, because if the state doesn't sanction, if the state doesn't facilitate people integrating and being part of an overriding culture, an overriding feeling of belonging in the UK, then there is some responsibility with the people who move here, but there's also a big responsibility on the state for allowing that to happen. What would you say to that?
Well, I'd say if you were an adult before 1997, which I was in my mid to late teens, I think after that date, when Blair got in and intentionally rubbed the noses of the right in diversity, I think after that point, what we invented was multiculturalism, which is a complete lie. What we should be saying at the door, there's two factors. Number one, at the door, this is Britain, this is how we operate. If you don't like it, you don't have to live here, okay? And I think the sheer volumes of people, we were talking about maybe a quarter added to the population since the early 90s. I mean, you know, if you think about it this way, in 1951, if you look at the census results, 98.8% of the British public were Christian, spoke English as a first language, and were white. Okay, and in less than one man's lifetime, we've had our country completely changed before our eyes, and most people didn't want or ask for it. So we didn't. No one ever wanted this. I'm from London. I moved out because I didn't want to live there, and most people up and down the country think this way. And also, in the last 7 or 8 general elections, one of the top 3 topics on the doorstep has been immigration. We've asked the government for 10, 20, 30 years. We gave them explicit instructions to stop illegal immigration and bring legal immigration down to low numbers, and they've ignored us, okay? So that's red and blue. So what do we do? How else can we make it clear that we didn't ever want this? How can we were never asked.
I wish you'd called in when Jonathan was here. What an eloquent way to explain how people... Did you? We didn't take calls in that hour, so you weren't ignored. I mean, it's a beautiful way of summarising how people who are actually living outside of the Westminster bubble are feeling, I think.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, Renee. Most people in the UK, I'd imagine, if we had a referendum, would agree with me. But I'm being ignored, OK? I moved out...
And do you think what's happening on the streets when it comes to the... extremism we're seeing in some of that protest, do you think that is how what you're describing has manifested?
Well, absolutely. If you think about it, right, I'm an Englishman that lives in England. I don't know any Israeli Jews. I don't know any Palestinians. I've never met a Russian or a Ukrainian. Why have I got this on my news 24/7? Why are hundreds of thousands of people in my capital city anti-British, anti-Jewish sentiment? I've got nothing to do with it, and I don't want anything to do with it. I don't know why they're protesting in London. If you feel so strong, I like the way that no one ever protested about the Jordanians or the Syrians getting killed. They were Muslims too.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? That's what's going on in Great Britain right now, and that's virtually almost a failed country, and a lot of that comes from the UN. There's a UN documents that documents the Great Replacement Migration.
I saw that.
Yeah, from 2001. There's kind of some interesting things about that. I had to go searching for it. I found it in a link, and then one link to it was down. As soon as I clicked on it, it went down for. It flashed up for a minute, then it went down for maintenance. And there was a backup on that. I clicked on that one. When I clicked on it, it went down for maintenance also. But fortunately, I'd saved it somewhere else. So there's a PDF there. Anyway. Go ahead.
To an extent, do you think that's happening today in the United States?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt.
Look at what Obama did with the Somalis.
Mm-hmm. And you see the problems.
When he put them in Minnesota.
Yep, and you see all the problems it's causing up there. That's why we have the squad.
Now, Sleepy Joe the pants shitter wants to bring all those Palestinians here.
Yeah.
Where's he going to put them?
Yeah.
He's going to put them in the swing states that he needs to get elected.
That's exactly right. And we've talked about this before. It's all going to be blanket amnesty. At some point just prior to the election, they're going to say, okay, everybody gets amnesty. You're all U.S. citizens now. If you're here in the country, and here's how you vote. And vote, here's you check D right here. If you see a name with a D, that's who you vote for. That's what the plan is with these assholes, and you know it.
Yeah.
So that's how they're going to manage to steal this next election. So that's what's going on in Great Britain, and it's slowly working its way across the world.
Somebody just posted something about the Quran. Don't you think the Quran should be on a roll of toilet paper like Scott?
No, I don't. I mean, it's a religious book, okay? Unless, Islam is a valid religion, right? No matter how you feel about it.
I mean, maybe in your eyes, not mine.
Well, it's not about, let's say, for example, I don't know how many billions of Muslims are there. I mean, it can't be discounted. There's just too many people involved. and that's not something I wanted to get into, was the validity of it or not, because there's so many different variations and sects and sects and all kinds of
Hey,
stuff.
caller, you're on the
Well-
air with i12 GIA on the FFN network.
Hey, gentlemen, it's Chris.
Hey,
Hey,
Chris,
buddy.
how are you, buddy? What do you think?
Good, good. How are you guys?
Good. What do you want to talk about?
I'm a little late to the show tonight.
No worries.
If you were to ask me my opinion, if Islam is compatible with Western civilization, I say this with a great deal of love and respect. It's most definitely no.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not coming on to bash any religion or anything, but I can tell you this: we don't see a lot of violence around, say, Catholic gatherings or other major religions. We don't force people to wear certain things.
Right.
There's no restrictions when it comes to it. And there was a comment earlier about religion in the United States, and we were founded on Judeo-Christian values. And
Right.
I think one of the biggest issues we're seeing now, especially with how our country is going, is we have lost sight of God in everything that we do. And like the video that you had played earlier said, with multiculturalism, when you make the United States the melting pot everybody wants it to be, there's going to be clashes with culture. And now we're getting away from what the framers had set out and what really became one of the greatest countries, if not the greatest country in the world, to now almost a standstill that we're at. When you bring in a religion like Islam, it becomes extremely dangerous. Now, I have not read the Quran. I won't read the Quran. I have read the Bible cover to cover, and I'm reading it again. And in nowhere does it say in there that we are to eradicate anybody for non-believers. We're
Exactly.
to preach the gospel.
Oh, it
Preach
says
the
in the
gospel
Quran.
if we
I've read the Quran. I've had plenty of time on my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've read it, and I know a lot of guys that served overseas. My best friend, he read it cover to cover because he wanted to know what he was dealing with when he went over there, and even the Prophet Muhammad said that he thought he was touched by demons. So
Definitely.
When you construct something like that, and look at the way the folks have reacted for hundreds of years, based off of what that has said, what they have read in there, and how they're acting now. That's scary, and I just don't think in our civilization that's compatible. And I was really glad that you guys brought up about Britain and about what's going on all over the world, because we're seeing this. And I remember working the day 9/11 happened, and I know you gentlemen were too, and that was a wake up call. I never thought about it before then, ever. It never crossed my mind, and now it's been prevalent everywhere, and it's something we have to pay attention to. And again, I'm not trying to say anything bad about Muslims or anything like that, or the religion. Just, is it compatible? If that's the question, my opinion is it's not. Just as I know full well, I'm not going to travel to Iran. I'm not going to Saudi Arabia. I'm not going to Iraq. I'm not going to put myself in a position where I feel that people don't want me there.
Yes, definitely. I do.
I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there as a Christian. I think 2023 was the highest year of Christians martyred. I'm all set. I'm not going to go to a place where they don't like my values, and that's okay. I can respect that, and I'm just going to stay away from there.
Yeah, that's another whole topic too.
Here, that's different.
Right. You had said earlier, Chris, that you're not really interested in reading the Quran. I have to agree with you. I parsed it a little bit, but I'm going to do a shameless, it's a plug for a book. Okay. It's Slavery, Terrorism, and Islam. All right. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's the historical roots of and contemporary threat of Islam to the Western world. It's written by Peter Hammond. I think in 2010, I think.
Mhm.
But if you really want to get into this subject and learn kind of like learn how it relates to what's going on with us right now, read this book. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it now, and it's exceptionally good. Answers a
Absolutely.
lot
I'll
of
definitely
questions.
check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's do Ayan's video up next, because he is going to explain how Muslims feel about us in Western civilization.
So Annie just posted 100% the Bible teaches us to love one another. I just like to know how that's working out in Gaza right now for the Israelis. It's not.
Hmm.
Um,
Exactly.
okay, I think, is that the one that we're looking for? I think.
World Hajib Day.
Let me get back in here for just a minute.
I'm getting it right now, guys.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. It's Ayan Hirsi is it's that one. Starts with, dear Muslims, the world is scared of us. The world is laughing at us. The world is worried about us. And there are legitimate reasons for their
You
worry.
want this cat right there, right?
Yep, that guy.
A worry that we cannot just deny. It is time, dear Muslims, the world is scared of us. The world is laughing at us. The world is worried about us. And there are legitimate reasons for their worry that we cannot just deny. It is time to flush the word Islamophobia down the toilet and start looking in the mirror and ask ourselves, how did we get here? How come the biggest and most dangerous thriving terrorist organization in the world are Muslim? How come terrorists successfully use Islam to mobilize more terrorists? What is the problem with our leaders, our books, our imams, and our religion? Why do we keep repeating these Stone Age traditions that have failed us and continue to fail us? The world has left us behind. The kuffar that our imams and books tell us to hate have traveled to the future, while we're still stuck in the Middle Ages, reading stories about Muhammad and his flying horse. You're watching this on your phone or your computer or tablet, created by these kuffars. The same kuffar that we hate so much have created most of the medicines that we use today. Medicine that our religion's crystal ball failed to bring about. The kuffar have moved forward and traveled into space. Meanwhile, we're stuck on earth in the Middle Ages, going to our poisonous mosques every Friday, reciting the same chapters and the same stories of Prophet Muhammad. Why haven't all of these books and teachings led us to science and technology and medicine? We're stuck debating which sect is correct, which interpretation is correct, who is the kafir and who is the real Muslim. How can we convince the kuffar to become Muslims? Why on earth would anybody want to be Muslim today? They're all scared of us. They're all laughing at us. They're all worried about us. Delete Israel and the West from the world and we would still be as ignorant as we are, and we would still be stabbing each other as we are. Stop blaming them and look at yourselves in the mirror.
That's pretty powerful stuff. And I have to agree with a lot of the things that he said.
Yeah.
No matter how progressive of a Muslim you are, or whether you're conservative or radical or whatever, it's pretty straightforward.
I don't know. You were there. You were there. You were in a different area than I was.
Yeah.
I can't grasp I can't pick up the bullshit that they're putting down. Sorry.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the call to prayer 6 times a day, and we have to shut everything down. So I'll give you an experience that I don't share very often, but I will anyway for this time, for what we're doing right now. My team had been sent out to monitor some tests or testing process for some Afghan police generals, and we were just supposed to make sure they didn't cheat and so forth. So anyway, we're in this big auditorium. The place was huge. There's probably 200 of them in there. So we got the process started, and they brought in several imams to do a blessing or whatever it was to start this testing process up. And it had a profound effect on me. It was maybe 30 minutes long, and about 10 minutes, I can't believe I'm even going to say this. I still haven't figured it out. And maybe at some point when I'm standing in front of St. Peter, I can ask him, what the fuck was that all about? Because I really have no idea what happened next. So I'm standing there, and I'm standing up at the top of this auditorium by this pillar, and I'm kind of watching all this stuff play out in front of me. And these guys with the robes and the hats and everything come in, and they sit down, and they start off their little chants and whatever it is that they're doing. And this profound sense of evil washed over me. I've never experienced, and I've looked evil in the eye. I've never experienced anything like this. It was like a haze coming up off the floor, and I had to leave the building. I had to go outside and sit on the steps out and grab a smoke and think about what the fuck just happened. So I don't know what that was all about, and I'll never have an answer. But oh boy. So yeah, I agree with you about some of I'm not saying any of this shit's right. That's the effect it had on me. That's
I never fucking took any chances whatsoever.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't know. One day maybe I'll get an answer to that question. But anyway, so to kind of sum up here, we got plenty of time left still. But to kind of sum up, we have decided at this point that Islam is not compatible in its current state with Western civilization.
Before you keep, Mr. B wants to know who turned on his alarm clock. So I'm going to try to answer that question for him. So, Mr. B, what happens is starting at sunrise, you get this god awful fucking prayer song that fucking goes off. 4:30 in the morning, you sit up, your hair sitting straight up, like, oh my God, what's going on? You know, you grab your gun and you jump out of bed, and you think you're ready for battle. And
thanks, Dimas.
And what it is they're prayer alarms. They go off 6 times a day. You know.
Yep. Up in a minaret, and the little trumpets and things start to blow. And
yeah, and whatever they're doing, they only got so much time to get to where they gotta go.
Right.
You know, the minarets. Yeah, that's where the comes out of the minarets.
Right. Yeah. Loudspeakers. Pointing in all 4 directions, way up, and go out through the whole city, through wherever you are.
Yep.
That kind of brings up another interesting story. Well, it's not really a story, but a topic is that I worked with my language assistant was a very astute, very what word am I looking for? He was a very religious Muslim. He was very into. Because he would do the whole 6 times a day, and we have to stop and all that, whatever it was that we were doing, which is fine. But he would say, I don't understand this. I mean, we live in dirt. We live in poverty. People are starving to death right outside this door, but yet we have these huge $1 million mosques sitting in the middle of these cities, and people are starving to death outside. Why? He could never really. He always tried to balance that out, and it kind of made sense. How that worked.
I had a Sunni interpreter.
Okay.
And the day I was leaving, we shook hands. He goes, "We're never going to see each other again."
Yeah.
I go, I goes, "What makes you say that?" He goes, "If we do it, it's going to be on the field of battle."
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That guy. That was my interpreter.
Yep. Well, yeah, but you got to have them. On the same token, though, we had some LAs that quite literally saved some of our guys. They blown up in car bombs, and one of them, kicked out the front windshield of the truck and got 4 guys to safety.
Yeah.
This truck's burning, because he was the first one to regain consciousness. So, we're going to be running a little bit longer for tonight, viewer. I think we're going to run over our hour, which is good because we still got a lot of stuff to talk about. I think we have. Let's go into what's happening in our country right now. We've talked pretty much about everybody else. So let's do this video right now from Columbia Heights, where it is apparently World Hijab Day. Which is...
I'm sorry. Say again, it's what day?
World Hijab Day. World Hijab Day in Columbia Heights.
All right.
Imagine that.
I got a bad feeling of what I'm about to watch. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why it's there.
Columbia Heights, I think this is like a chance for us to help students understand and be more aware of other cultures.
My name is Rahma Mahmoud. Today we're having a World Hijab Day to teach a lot of
Guys, may I?
Oh yes, please.
Thank you very much. So again, all I want to say is this here is another perfect example of these kids
Yep.
not being told exactly what that garment entails.
Yep.
It doesn't come
Amen.
off.
They're clueless.
Nope. And it's
They go
control.
to bed with it on off. You know what I mean? Put it on
Yeah.
in the morning, and
Yeah.
at only bedtime.
Yep. And
It,
if you go outside the house in Afghanistan and you're not wearing your full covering, they're going to beat you to death.
they'll
They're going to
beat the
dig up.
shit out of you.
They're going to dig up. They're going to dig a fucking hole in the ground as a woman. They're going to dig a hole in the ground. They're going to stick you in that hole to where nothing but your head's above the top.
And they're going to
And
stone
then
the
a bunch of
shit out
guys
of
are
you.
going to stone you to death.
I had a video on the way we see it Tuesday night because we were talking a little bit about this. I just felt it wasn't good to show, so I talked about it instead. And the video was exactly that.
Yep.
Was exactly that. They dug a hole and they put this woman in it. And I'm like, what in the world could someone possibly have done for this type of torture? And they put her in the hole, covered her all the way up. And when one guy was done patting the shovel down, another guy kicked her like right in the face.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And people were literally walking by her like if they were on their way to work, kids going to school, whatever, and throwing shit at this woman's head. And I mean stones, ladies and gentlemen, like brick-sized bricks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And these people here at Columbia and all these, they had no clue what they're doing.
It's not a fashion statement.
Zero.
None. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to share the I12 show on the FFN network. That's all I got to say. I'll put your video back on, gentlemen, and thank me because if I don't ask to jump in and say what's on my mind, I'll lose my mind the rest of the night. You know what I mean?
You're always welcome.
So, all right, here you go,
buddy. Thanks, man.
The students at Columbia Heights what the hijab is, and I feel like there's like some of the students who don't wear it don't really know what it is. They just see it, and I feel like they might have questions but maybe too shy to come up without seeming ignorant. So today is just a day where everybody can just learn what it is, get questions that might be uncomfortable to them out of the way, and just bring our community closer.
I'm Lydia Kennedy. I'm a senior at Columbia Heights High School. I guess it's World Hijab Day, so we came over to ask some questions. We were a little bit curious about the hijab questions, and I guess trying a hijab, and now I get to keep it.
No, isn't that special? Now she gets to keep it. That's just lovely. Yeah, you're right, Ann. They have absolutely no idea. They think it's fashion. They have no clue. One of the reasons for all of this, like the face covering, and well, there's actually a couple of reasons. One is because in more radical Islam, they don't want women exposed to the male gaze, and they don't want men to be excited because they see women. So they just figure if they dress them in a black bag, then the only people that will ever see them out of that is their husbands or brothers, close relatives, that kind of thing. And what
you mean like Ilhan Omar and her brother?
Yeah, like that. Yeah. And what Blaze was talking about with the poor woman being stoned to death, who knows what she did? It could have been anything from adultery to driving or something, or maybe she walked out the door and didn't have her burqa on, or that's the kind of situations you're dealing
Hey,
with.
just for the record, Annie Hartford brings up a good point. They don't know what they're doing. They're kids, and they think it's cool to wear something different. They have no idea about the cultural differences.
No, they don't.
You put that on, you go out in public, some Muslim guy sees you, he lays claim to you.
Yep.
I guess the bottom line is you're fucked.
Yep. All right, let's see. For the Afghanistan video, no, I think that only goes to like 1970, so I don't think we have anything after that, unless you want to. Hey, Blaze, unless you want to look for something from the Taliban from current, maybe we can stick that on there. For some reason, I missed that in my research today. So we'll just keep talking. So we're doing good. Yeah, we're definitely coming up with a the belief that it's not compatible with Western civilization. And if we have things like World Hijab Day here in this country and it's not answered, it's going to cause problems for us.
Yeah, it's not compatible today,
but
but it was at one time.
Right, exactly.
And I'm going to give you a classic example. You don't have to take my word for it. Remember the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
Yep.
Remember when Jimmy Stewart goes and he gets the suitcase?
Yep.
And the guy asks him, what suitcase you want? And he goes, I want a big one. I want one that I can stick us from San Marzan. This one, Baghdad. Baghdad used to be the pearl of the East at one point.
I know.
You
Did
know?
you see that there was a bit, they were talking about the refugee camp that they built for the Gazans or whatever that Israel just whipped up, and it's all along the beach. It's $1 million beachfront property.
Yeah.
You know, the ocean's like 4-foot breakers coming in.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful. And they built these little tents and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That entire country could be like that, but they just won't let it.
No.
You know, they're so entrenched with the Palestinians and radicals. Yeah. Let's let's do that one and see what that looks like. It's a Taliban courtroom video, so let's. This will be a surprise to all of us.
Mawala ka uli. Nakaporma pa yung subot siya, dispati siya porma pa yung niliraw. Taka sila nasa dyan na siya rin.
Mara ila zanun da kake fa mun ban wala kada do na shajin ba ta ci shi dai mun ko halewa ko halam ajaba masriya katwa
Sure will beat the truth out of them.
Yana di mo wala siya kanisa.
Sana wa fa shishka
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, y'all gotta like and share this show, and you need to get some young people on this damn thing and watch this stuff.
Definitely.
Because I'm telling you, situational awareness.
Yep. You know, knowledge is power, and there are a lot of powerless people here right now.
Annie Hartford, thank you. I like that comment that you just put up.
Sharia doesn't show leniency to anyone. It does not.
I got to get my buddy on here to talk to you guys. He's like a scholar when it comes to this. He spent a lot of time over there, and he's listening right now.
Get him to watch too.
I'm trying to push him to get on here. So I know he's listening. You got to be on. You got to call in soon.
Yep, that'd be great. Yeah, if anybody wants to call in, 508-974-4231, we'd love to talk to you.
For the record, I gotta say, just by looking at all these guys in this video, every one of them, their wives or their girlfriends must be goats.
Fucking Rennie.
All I can think of.
Sorry.
All I can think of is the movie The Dictator.
That was a bad joke.
Listen, you know I ain't going to not say nothing when he throws a joke like that out there. So look, because I just got a little bit kind of curious. Now that I'm looking at him, I mean, this is like truly like a boys' club, right? Something to that effect.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And really, in this kind of courtroom with these dudes, right? You know, whacking a cat, some dude on a feet with a stick is kind of like a fucking turn on.
Yeah, probably.
Would you say?
Yeah, we need something.
Get a whiff of them.
Saying? Yeah,
get a whiff of them.
Right. The next piece of torture is bringing in a girlfriend or a wife. Why she's
a girl? Yeah.
In,
oh, jeez.
You know, so we'll leave it at that. And I'm just saying, Rainey started it. I'm just saying, he started it.
I'm just stating a statement of facts, guys. Come on. You know, I'd like to get Marcus Luttrell on here and see what he thinks of this.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, okay.
All
That's
right,
about
so
enough.
Rainey, is that that sound you were saying that you woke up to and you shot up the barracks?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the sound.
Just imagine it like blasting through
1,000 times over 1,000 times louder over a loudspeaker.
Right. So
yeah, they do. Throw shoes as an insult. Yep. Yeah, you whack somebody with your.
Really? See,
the other thing,
and that's something that's so something that's so simple to them. I
Yeah.
mean, you go there. I don't care if you try to learn the culture like here in America, and you think you got it all settled, and you go up there and you just do something stupid, they're gonna spot it like that.
well, yeah, there was so much stuff.
And before you know it, you're getting hit in the back of the head with a brick or a shoe.
Oh.
And you know what I mean? I don't know.
Not only is the shoe an insult, but don't ever offer a Muslim your left hand.
Yeah, there's that too.
Because that's the hand that you wipe your ass with.
Yeah, or show the bottom of your feet. Crossed. Yeah, you're right, Blaze. And a lot of times, during Ramadan, for example, all of us Westerners, they would, because we still eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they don't because they're fasting.
Oh, they eat too at 5 o'clock when the shotgun goes off.
Well, yeah,
signifying
but
it's the end of the fucking day. They start gorging themselves.
Right, so they would block off the chow hall area.
Yeah.
Where the windows were, they'd put paper or whatever up, so the Muslims as we were walking back and forth, they wouldn't have to see us Westerners having lunch and shit. So, in some cultures that'll get you beaten to death.
When I was at the Israeli embassy, they always told us when you hear the shotgun, don't panic. That means it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the hypocrites are going to go fucking feed their faces.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
And it ain't Jimmy Buffett that's talking about it.
Chris,
all right. Yeah.
Chris, for the record, you can chime in at any time, man.
Oh yeah, just jump in.
Oh, thank you. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? We're at 110. Are we going to run over some more, or you guys want to talk about some other shit, or what are we doing here?
It's up to you. I can throw 5 minutes.
Yeah, we can probably go ahead and wrap up, I guess, and then
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And we'll be done for the day. I think we've covered a lot of really good stuff, Rennie.
All right. Say goodnight to your caller, to your your audience.
Chris, thanks for showing up, buddy.
Thanks,
you
Chris.
made the show.
Gentlemen, you all of you guys are truly a voice of freedom, and please keep it up. I love the FFN network. You guys are doing a hell of a job. Thank you for everything. God bless.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, man.
Annie Hartford, you're my hero. Thank you for showing up.
Yep, most definitely.
Annie's Annie's almost to the point where she's like a super fan of the FFN network.
Yeah,
because I know she watches my show. She definitely watches your show and the Mr. B show. So you know what I mean?
We're going to have to send her like virtual flowers or something.
Something.
Thank you, Mr. B.
Thanks, Mr. B.
Appreciate your
That
kind
means a lot.
comments.
That
You
means a
did
lot
a
coming.
tremendous job too.
Yeah, it means a lot coming from you, buddy. Okay, well, we have decided, I think, between all of us and our collective wisdom that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. And it's going to be an issue of education. Knowledge is power. The more the word gets out and the more people that are exposed to that fact, I think we're going to start dealing with this better. It's happening in London and England, United Kingdom, Germany. A lot of countries in Europe right now are feeling the weight of this, and they're starting to fight back. They figured this shit out in a hurry.
I can't wait to see August, September, and October around here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I really don't want to see that kind of thing here.
Love you too, Annie. Thank you.
Another crusade is going to be a complete and total disaster for the world in general. But having said that, we had a great time talking to everybody tonight.
Yeah,
it would have been nice if we would have had some callers coming in, but maybe that'll come at some point. So like us, share us. There's buttons and shit that you got to push and things that you got to thumbs up that come up and comments and things that help us keep the FFN network going. and help us keep us with them and keep our shows going and keep us all excited and interesting.
And if you're interested in anything else, i12 GIA, Peace of Mind Training,
and Global Elite Tactical
we
Training.
provide firearms training. We provide self-defense training. We provide tools. We provide kits. Anything you think you'd need to survive, we're the go-to people.
Yep, and for the Global Elite stuff, check us out online, and you can find all of our information there. And once again, want to thank the fine folks over at the FFN Network for letting us ramble on as we do. And
Blaze Man for doing a tremendous job, as he always does.
Yep. So it's all good. And on that happy note, folks, as usual, give the ones you love a hug, keep them close, and prepare to self-rescue. And on that, I'm going to say goodnight.
You have just watched an FFN Network production.